Ellie Walker is an army veteran, radio announcer, and television anchor who is also the president of the Social Issues Theatre. And Ellie has just set up a podcast called Up is Higher Than Down. So, your podcast, what exactly do you like to do in it?
I like to remind people that we all go through problems, we all have challenges, and that if we can just make any effort to, attempt to look at what would bring it up, make us feel better on any level, we can have a better day.
Yes, absolutely. And how did you get inspired to create the podcast?
Well, actually, I had a radio program years ago in Chicago on WEBB radio entitled Up is Higher Than Down. And for physical reasons, we disbanded that. That's been like maybe 12, 15 years ago. And then, of course, with all the political and viral pandemics going on right now, I thought that maybe, I should bring that back. And it helped me a lot. It helps me a lot because, the up is higher than down doesn't indicate that all you have to do is. No, it's a struggle. It's a fight sometimes to look up. It's easy when the sun is shining and everything is great to say, I'm going to look up, I'm going to get up, I'm going to stay up. But then when stuff happens, when you lose your job or your spouse dies and stuff, it's like, it's work.
So would you say it's quite a positive podcast? Is that what you're trying to put it across as?
Absolutely. And in a positive way and not in some hokey positive way.
Yeah.
What I do is I talk about daily issues. Like last podcast, I talked about, the fact that most of us in the United States have felt bullied in these past 4 years. And that has inspired some very negative responses from people. I mean, people are crying more, people are feeling isolated and alone, and they're quite worried about their futures. But the fact is, we live every day. And do we want to waste our time feeling bad every day? I don't think so.
We don't want that.
I don't think so.
So you've talked about feeling bullied over the last 4 years. I take it then you welcome the victory of Joe Biden then?
I should get up right now and just start running around my chair. I really welcome Joe Biden. I welcome decency. I welcome unity. I welcome people not being afraid of each other. And I certainly welcome people putting their guns down and extending their hands of fellowship and friendship.
Yeah. And even all policies aside, I think if someone isn't willing to admit that they haven't won, they probably weren't a good president.
That's true. That's really true. I mean, we've been greatly impacted by this presidency. We have negatively been impacted. And it's quite scary, actually, because I've never seen anything like this in the United States ever before.
Yeah.
The behaviors of people are so insane that it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And do you think that Trump's presidency is certainly hindered a lot of racial issues that have been going on, particularly recently with the George Floyd incident and others?
No doubt, because as a leader and a world leader, not just, a U.S. presence, he had an opportunity to speak peace.
Yeah. He
had an opportunity actually to put the racial problem on the line and say, let's talk about it. I started because of Social Issues Theater, what we do is we bring social issues to the stage and we allow the stage to be that buffer, that wall that separates us from the problem where people can really listen and really interact with it. And we started something called 10 Minutes of Truth on Racism. And what it does is it allows people to actually talk about it at the end of the presentation about racism and about how they feel. And here's what we found consistently. If I'm raised to be racist, I'm more than likely going to believe what my mom, my dad, and my grandparents tell me than what you tell me.
Yeah.
And so this is a problem that we have to bring this out and have a conversation. So many people really don't want to be racist. And a lot of people don't know that they are racist.
Yes.
And how to come away from that. And then it all goes back to that one word of decency. It doesn't matter. I mean, we can't erase how we've been taught and how we've been raised. But we can decide that we want to live life in a certain behavior pattern where we feel safe and we feel good and we can send our kids to school. We don't have to worry about getting shot and killed in a church or a salon. Just, yeah.
How optimistic do you feel about racism becoming sort of, how do I put this, less bad? Because I don't think it's ever going to go away, really. But do you feel like it was worse years ago? Or do you think we've not really come very far?
I think when you have a plant and you don't dig it up from the root, it's going to come back.
Yeah.
And so I don't think up until now, we really have had a need for an open, non-hostile, let's get this out conversation. I think that it's going to take a little while because right now, people on the other side or whatever side you're on, some are fearful, some are angry. And so there's a lot of trust that has to be earned in order to have a conversation. I think the people that are really insanely racist, I don't think there's much hope for having a dialogue with them about anything, actually. But those persons that are caught kind of in the middle, I think they're willing to have a conversation and they don't want this. They don't want this for their kids. My gosh, we have so many interracial marriages. We have so many beautiful interracial children, that we can't afford to allow this to exist.
Yeah. Do you think it's quite shocking? Because I kind of find it so weird that you've went from the first ever African-American president doing 2 terms to Donald Trump completely on the other side.
My gosh, you know what that's like? The visual, that's like being a piece of chicken being carefully washed on the sink and then dropped in the hot grease. I mean, we just went from love everybody to hate your guts. Let's fight. And, when people walk around with AR-15s and other automatic weapons, just to go to the Target or to the grocery store, service station, it's like, oh, wow, how did we get here? Yeah. Sad, huh?
And I bet those same people don't want to wear masks, which probably protect them more in these times.
I understood from reading that our president read and reads and has a book of Adolf Hitler's playbook by his nightstand.
Wow.
I don't know, if that's actually true, but I can say this. I can say that there are enough comparisons in how the governing of people and how you hype people up and how you give people misinformation and how you play on their fears and you get them all excited, and they're willing to kill.
Yeah.
And that's been proven historically. I mean, we saw with our Jewish brothers and sisters, what happens with that type of hatred and rhetoric being spewed. And I'm going to tell you the honest to goodness truth. I was afraid that 4 more years of Donald Trump would have led Black and brown Americans back into some sort of slavery, to be honest, because it didn't look good.
Yeah. Well, how do you think that Joe Biden's presidency will bring back, hopefully, some sort of decency and fairness?
I think that he's a good visual. He's a good visual as a husband, as a father, as experienced things. I think he will become more, at this present time, what we need. He's a combination of having had political experience of 47 years, vice president to an African-American president for 8 years, and that Uncle Joe type of feeling. This is Uncle Joe talking. This is Uncle Joe coming into your living room. And I think right now we need an Uncle Joe. We need an Uncle Joe to say, okay, it's gonna be okay, babies. Just calm down. That sort of thing. And people ask me, would Joe Biden have been my pick for president? I have to tell you, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But what Joe Biden brings to the table at this time is absolutely what we need.
Yeah.
If we had to make a choice, Trump, Biden.
Yeah.
There's no choice.
Certainly a referendum on Trump or not. And if Biden is the other option, then
exactly.
So be it. Do you think Trump's going to run again in 2024? Because there's a lot of talk about that.
I don't think so. And my fear is his attempt at holding his base separate from the rest of the United States and the rest of the world for 4 years. That is scary to me because I understand that he has decided to go on to some digital campaign against Fox News, of course. Well, that even is newsworthy in itself, you know. And so he's a TV man, you know. I mean, let's face it. So he's already planned this master plan out, and so his base will follow that. The problem with that is it just completely divides America. Do I think he'll run in 2024? Absolutely not. I think that all of us that want peace and decency in our society will do everything that we can to usher that type of thinking away. I mean, we can't have it. We can't have it in our school systems. The thought that I could be ill today during this COVID, thank God I'm not and hope I do not become ill, and I have to go to a hospital and just think that someone might be caring for me that doesn't care about me, that's really scary. And so I think that we have to really struggle to fight against that type of mentality.
Yeah. Well, with the COVID over there, if you get it and get seriously ill, do you have to pay even if it's part of the pandemic because you don't have free healthcare like we have over here?
Yeah, like I wish I was over there right now. Yeah. I'm an Army veteran, so I really am not best to answer that question because I don't pay for my healthcare.
Oh.
But I understand that one of the reasons why it was really important to get Biden in to fight for the maintenance of our Affordable Care Act is because COVID is now going to be listed as a pre-existing condition. And if that's the case, and there's no Affordable Care Act to protect people so that they can get service, even though they have a pre-existing condition, that would be devastating for families, individuals, and our economy.
Yeah, well, hopefully things get sorted out. And back to your podcast then. What do you do to prepare for each episode? Do you do anything?
Well, you know, it's always a learning process. And what I've learned from these last couple of guests is that I need to, what causes me to be successful in delivering is if I'm prepared and I know exactly what I want and I do an intro that inspires the guests to talk.
Yeah.
And so that's really what I do. So if I'm going to talk about like what my first podcast was, Life After Death, I had an opportunity to really give an intro about how I felt about that and where I was going and what I wanted to, the message that I wanted to go out. And so that helped the guest become more prepared. When I'm doing a solo podcast, which I'll be doing quite frequently, it's all about being motivated and incensed at situations, be them personal or worldwide.
For sure. That's quite a good way of doing things to make the guest feel comfortable and know where they stand and how to talk and stuff.
Yes.
The slogan of the podcast is look up, get up, and stay up. What is the true meaning of that, would you say?
Well, no matter how defeated, challenged, or suppressed we are by a circumstance, if we can just begin looking up from that position and seeing ourselves getting up, you know, and then we stand up. You know, when you think about looking up, that's just a ray of hope.
Yeah.
And getting up means that I'm defying this situation. I'm going to stand up in it. I'm going to find a solution to my problem. I'm not going to allow it to overtake me. And then once I've gotten to my feet, I'm dang well determined to stand and to stay up.
Yeah.
And that's what.
Absolutely. That's a really positive message, I suppose, and you really want to get that out there. Do you have a particular audience that you appeal to?
I am uncertain of that at this time. I have the LGBTQ family that I appeal to because I love that community. I have matured adults that I appeal to because I love that community. Yeah. And then surprisingly, I have a lot of young people that are really grappling at this time to have a conversation and not to be taught to, and not to be told what to do. but to be suggested how they can empower themselves to accomplish the goals that they have set in their hearts and minds at this time, which look so difficult. I just can't even imagine really being a young person at this time.
Yeah.
I have my phone on do not disturb, and why that did that, I do not know. Um, Young people, I have a lot of people in my company because I do theater that are musicians, who are actors, who are linguists, and they're having a very difficult time. I have people that are stage performers here in Las Vegas, and they're extroverts. And so right now, because of the isolation, they're the ones that really suffer. I mean, they're suffering. And so they need some words of encouragement to know that no matter what this looks like, we're going to get through it and to hold on, and that you have power.
Yeah.
See, that's the whole problem. These things come, and the first thing that they do is they rattle us in such a way that we become disengaged from our own strength.
Yeah.
And once that happens, we're going down.
Yeah.
We can't get up, right?
Absolutely. And I don't know how it is over there with financial support from the government, etc. But over here, it looks like it's going to be young people that are going to have to pay all the money back for all the grants and loans that have been given out. Right.
Our government has mistreated our public, as far as I'm concerned, in a horrible way, because to bait people on for this long, thinking that they were going to be able to pay their rent or their car note or buy food or get necessities, medication and things like that, and then to constantly back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with no definitive plan. Because, honestly, you cannot make a budget without a plan. If you don't know what's coming in, how can you know it?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't do it. And so it's just inhumanely cruel the way they had gone about this, because all of them left, those meetings in limousines and Bentleys and BMWs. And I don't begrudge that, but take care of your business. We're paying you and voted for you to do a job, which to take care of us. What has happened with this administration is like, the government is in charge, and we, the people, are kind of like nobody. And you're going to do whatever we tell you to do and give you a little crumb. You're going to eat that crumb. And now we want you to eat it in quiet and peace. That's not going to happen.
Exactly. I mean, over here, we think our government have done a bad job at handling it. But compared to America, they've done amazing.
I know. It's just unbelievable. And that is so disheartening. And so all of us are walking around like the dog with the bad haircut because we're ashamed. We're ashamed that, all these years we've had a certain presence on the world stage. We were looked up to and admired. Yeah. We were the people to follow. Yeah. And now we feel like, we're kind of like in the gutter. And it just happened so quickly.
Yeah.
So,
well, hopefully in January, things will turn a new leaf and America will be seen in a positive light again.
Yes, and we will all look up, get up, and stay up.
Yeah. You won't have an embarrassment as a leader anymore.
I know. It's been so embarrassing. Oh, my Lord. I don't even I don't know if you got a chance to see Van Jones respond to Biden being elected.
Was he a guy on the news? There was somebody crying on the news?
That was Van Jones.
Yeah.
That was Van Jones. Yeah. And, when that man started crying, honestly, I started crying with him. I had already been crying earlier that day anyway, because I was so relieved that hope was on the menu. But to hear him cry and to say things like, now I can tell my children, that it's okay to be honest. You're supposed to be honest. You're supposed to be good. You're supposed to be kind. And the tears just, and he didn't just cry, he whimpered, and I was like, oh,
absolutely.
Wow. And he just really, for me, helped me release a lot of anxiety. And honestly, I did not realize how deeply affected I have been in these past 4 years, because I don't think you want to say that to yourself.
Yeah. You don't really know what you've been through until it's happened, I suppose, right?
Absolutely.
You just sort of take it as it comes.
Yeah, right. And hope you live through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've been wrestled every day or every week. There's something negative. We're going to take away LGBTQ rights. We're going to take away Medicare. We're going to take away the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
We're going to do this and that and that. It's like, oh my gosh, why should I even get up in the morning? Are you kidding me?
Exactly. Now, earlier this year, unfortunately, your spouse passed away of Lewy body dementia.
Yes.
And how hard was it to have someone pass away during this crisis? Because I suppose you probably didn't really have a proper chance to say goodbye.
I had a chance to be by her bedside at hospice, but she was hospitalized April the 6th, which was our 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
And she stayed in the hospital off and on in various hospitals for 2.5 months. Each time she went into a hospital, I was not able to see her. I had to fight my way through in order to get the floor managers to listen to me. She has dementia. She needs somebody by her side. And the first time I wasn't able to see her at all.
Wow.
The second time she was in the hospital, which was consecutively, she was at home only for 2 days. I got a chance to see her after 9 days of begging.
Yeah.
And then when she was moved to another institute, I was not able to see her at all because they had a COVID outbreak.
Yeah.
And then her health, the absence of my presence, I'm sure exacerbated her condition because having Lewy body's dementia, she was in a strange world already. And then not being able to see a familiar face, I think just encouraged her health to decline.
Yeah.
And then she was moved to hospice. The first 5 days she was at hospice, I couldn't see her because they had a COVID outbreak. She was on a COVID wing. And then her best friend said, come on, we're going to go. And they allowed us to put all this hazmat stuff on. I mean, we looked like we were walking the Apollo 13.
Wow.
And I was like, when she opens her eyes, if she sees me, she's going to be afraid of me. She's going to think I'm a monster.
Yeah.
And just as we got completely suited, the hospital said, it's okay. She's cleared. We're going to move her to another room. And I was able to spend the last days with her. And I stayed at the hospital until she passed.
Yeah.
So, the hospice until she passed. Yeah.
So it's good that it sort of kind of worked out by the end, but it's a bit of a dilemma, isn't it? Because
it is.
Sometimes you have to allow certain COVID restrictions to be broken on really strong, compassionate grounds, don't you?
You would think so. And I have to say that it's unfortunate that legalities are the way they are.
Yeah.
And so the hospital administration, the staff were all governed by this monster that was eating away at their hearts and their spirits because they're there to make people feel better. Most of these women and men, they go into nursing and being physicians because they love people and because they really care. And so it's been a real stress for them as well as the family, in addition to the fact that when you have concerned family members that will come to the hospital every day, it alleviates some of the stress from those workers because you're there and you'll comb the patient's hair and you'll, bathe them and you'll spend time, you'll feed them. And so everybody was strapped through this process.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's awful. It's awful. And anyone that's suffering with Lewy body dementia or any family member that's caring for a loved one, God bless you, because it is really a struggle.
Yeah, it does sound not very pleasant indeed.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Outside of the podcast, do you have anything that you like to get up to in your spare time?
I'm writing a book
entitled
Seeing Beyond the Mess, which is a memoir. I've had a very, very interesting life. And that snippets that will be in the book are available right now under lawalker.life on Facebook. That's one thing. The other thing is that I very much enjoy music. I find it, such a wonderful pacifier. I have friends that, fortunately, where I live, I'm able to engage with them and spend a little time. So I'm not, isolated like I was prior to my spouse passing, because I moved into a better situation for me to continue. And spiritually, I come in contact with my spirituality. I pray a lot, um, and I focus on being grateful for things being as good as they are.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and would love to have you on again, maybe when the book is ready.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah, you can maybe talk a bit about that interesting life.
All right. This has been a pleasure. You're very easy to engage with. Thank you so much for having me on your show.